you would. It will come on as you speak.
Very good. So, first I think the word used before ecosystem is a good word to try to get the right setting for innovation. And I believe what you're asking for, which is capital, it's important. We always thought capital was free. Maybe in the last couple of years have proven us wrong. But capital is important. But perhaps what I would say the most important, and connectivity is crucial. The most important piece is talent. So education is fundamental, and I would say not just education from a pure fundamental science point of view. I think I like to quote sometimes or paraphrase George Bernard Shaw that said, some people look at things the way they are and ask why. To some extent, maybe it's an oversimplification, but when you look at physics and nature, you try to look at nature and understand why things work the way they are. I think for true innovation, you have to have that different approach of dreaming things that never were and ask why not. And I think we need to foster that kind of thinking also in the people that we are educating for the future. Another key element in talent is diversity. And when I look at Europe, it's a very diverse continent, and the fact that it's truly I see a lot of Spanish people here, Erasmus, and a lot of things, it's becoming a lot more multicultural. So I think looking at the problem from a different perspective adds a lot to innovation, and the way we structure innovation in the company takes that into consideration, always. So that's the first. The ecosystem includes those things. The infrastructure, like the universities have and the companies have, the talent and the capital, but also from a company point of view is the purpose. You know, I understand basic science will open the door for future things that we have not even imagined yet. But from a practical point of view in companies, we think of the purpose. What is in it for our customers 10 years out? And we have to have a purpose in mind. We try to guide innovation. And for instance, one clear example in Europe has been energy efficiency. It was a purpose, and it has spurred a lot of innovation in our industry, in our company, with people from this continent imagining things differently, designing them differently, manufacturing them here, selling them here, and exporting them around the world. So energy efficiency was a purpose. And I think it was a purpose very well used by Europe. And we have a problem of 40% of the energy consumed in Europe is consumed in buildings. They're kind of old and inefficient. So we have to do something about that. And that purpose has spurred a lot of innovation. And now we have the big Goliath of the economic development today is China. 60% of what we sell in the world today is sold in China. Just imagine that. There's more buildings coming up in China today coming up than the building stock of the Northeast United States. It's unbelievable. And they have an environmental issue. I was there a couple of weeks ago, and it's sometimes you don't know if it's fog or what it is that you have, but it's difficult to see. So they're eager to find environmentally friendly, energy efficient solutions, and Europe hasn't. So I think the ecosystem, the people, and the purpose.
And as you say, the different perspectives. So the 3 Ps. And question perhaps for later, you said you need to look ahead and say what's in it for customers 10 years out. How do you, and President Barroso talked this morning about foresight capabilities, how do you identify when the world is changing so fast and the technology changes so fast, how do you actually do that? Because it's easy to say and not so easy to do. We'll come back to that in the discussion. But Tony, anything you would add when we talk about the drivers of innovation and innovation's role in competitiveness, so crucial for the economy, people, perspectives, and purpose. Do you have another P or another letter of the alphabet you'd like to introduce?
I'm not sure. I'll see how I go. I mean, I was very interested in the opening presentation. I mean, if I can build on that for a bit, I think any advanced economy needs significant investment in fundamental research, and some of those charts that we saw there were worrying, not only from a research point of view, but actually it struck me from a people point of view. I was watching that, and I didn't. Yes, I saw the research investment, but I was actually thinking people, similar to Pedro, because that's one of the key things that we need to invest in Europe. I mean, interestingly, you won't get an argument from me that says, you know, don't invest in fundamental research. Invest in in applied research or in funding for company-only specific research, because actually that curve that was on the screen that does apply, and if you don't do the fundamental research, you've got no sort of feedstock from a people and a research point of view upon which to draw. I would make a few observations from an end user point of view, though. I think one of the things that we've been good at as a community in the last few years is that certainly in the automotive industry we've worked very closely with the Commission and others and industry bodies to document our roadmaps for the future and to get alignment on what the key research challenges are in our industry. We've got the likes of EU Car, we've got ERTCO, we've got ERTRAC, etc. And over the past couple of years, we've managed to get very remarkable alignment between companies and policymakers on what the roadmaps are and what the challenges are for the future, and that gives a really good foundation as an input signal back into the research base, because essentially the trick is to try and increase the probability of things hitting success from your chart. Nobody's saying I only do it one way. It's just it's a probability. Yeah, there's a P for you. It's increasing the probability of the research investment making it through. In terms of how you then build on that fundamental base and bring things through into industry, most companies in our industry dedicate an amount of their annual R&D spending and annual R&D people in the R-intensive part of our R&D. We certainly do that, and that then is our link out into what I'll call the intellectual value chain that actually isn't necessarily all about universities and business working together. That intellectual value chain could start at a very research-intensive university. It could involve a university which is more translational or other entities which work between industry and academia, and then industry itself. So the way you do it is you build programs, collaborative R&D programs that build an intellectual value chain that go all the way from the research base through to application. And certainly in capital intensive and investment intensive industries like ours, in order to hit that success line, there really does need to be a pull, because you're talking about investments of billions, potentially private investments of billions, to pull it through. But I think it is possible. I think it is getting better. I'm worried about the lack of investment, but there are some positive things. There are the joint agenda between policymakers and companies. I think the other challenge that we've got, which I'm sure we'll talk about later as well, is how do we do this with more agility and speed? Because at the moment we are not competitive in terms of how fast we move. Okay.
Lots of issues to discuss there. Before I bring Dame Ellen MacArthur in, Athene, if I could just ask you to react on two of those points: the people, the talent. Endless debate in Europe about how do we get the skills we need, how do we make sure that there is a match between the skills we're producing and the skills that people in sectors like theirs produce. So a word on that. As you work with the university, you're all about nurturing the young talent. And the second question about this working together. It is really easy, and clearly everyone says if we are going to meet these challenges of the 21st century and beyond, we need to work together. And we've heard there about the importance of this collaboration between you and them. It's pretty obvious to me what's in it for them in terms of what industry can get from you. What makes those partnerships really work from an academic perspective? How do we really make sure that you are genuinely and getting the right balance between that basic fundamental research, Tony talking there about how he is a great believer in both, but getting that balance right so it works for all of you? Just a thought on that, and then I will bring Dame Ellen MacArthur in a moment.
Okay, well, to start with the people angle, the ERC, I should stress, funds individuals. They're single PIs on each grant, and so they are developing the talent at different stages in their careers. But if we look at the way we train our students, I think there is a very clear awareness now about the importance of not just facts, but many of the other skills that business requires. And there are courses on entrepreneurship, if that's what people want to do. I mean, not everyone's going to be cut out for that. So I think we're very aware of it. I think we have to be aware of the diversity angle. We heard a lot this morning about women innovators and the importance that they have to play because they bring a different angle, and diverse teams are so important. And I think it's important to realise that what may excite men and women at 20, say, when you're trying to train them, may be different, and we have to be aware of that as we introduce these ideas to students. As for working together, I think I hope we have moved away from here is pure science, here is applied science, and here is business. I mean, I like the idea of a value chain, an intellectual value chain, because I think everyone has something to contribute somewhere along that chain, and we shouldn't compartmentalize what we do. So although personally I don't have a single patent to my name, I have worked with many different companies over many years, and a lot of that is about doing, again, the underpinning science. And I don't believe the companies I'd have worked with over the years, so Unilever and ICI, when it existed, were two of the big companies I worked with. I don't believe they'd have continued to fund our research if we weren't putting something into their knowledge base, as it were. But it didn't mean it had to be a patent. And I think we have to be careful about being too sort of crude about these things. I think there's absolutely no problem with universities working with businesses, and different people in the universities will have different angles on that.
So it's okay when the European Commission, for example, when they came up with their output indicators for innovation, had one of them is you measure the number of patents. That's fine, but it mustn't just be a sole criteria. There are so many other elements. I'll come back on that discussion with all of you, if I might. Lots of things to talk about there. Very struck by what you said there about compartmentalizing. And I'm sure, within academia, certainly within policymakers, getting that joined up thinking, multidisciplinary approach, something I think you're emphasizing there. But at this point, and assuming the technology will work, I am hoping that we can bring in Dame Ellen MacArthur to talk to us about her vision for the 21st century and imagining the 22nd, to talk about the circular economy. Dame Ellen MacArthur, can you hear me? Are you with us? Let us see. There we are. Hello. Very warm welcome to you,
Hello.
Ellen. And over to you, please, to share with us your vision, and then I'll get the panel to react, and we'll discuss with our audience here. Very warm welcome, and over to you.